All right, we're going to go ahead and get started with our next panel here. We've talked a lot about the state of NORS, the state of staking. And so here we're going to talk about two specifically newer types of technology in the staking ecosystem, as well as how we keep NORS fresh moving forward, and how the institutions and how staking itself is looking to evolve in the future. So we're going to start with a couple introductions. I'll go ahead and start. My name is Evan from PwC. I work closely with Carrie on a lot of items. I do, however, sit in the advisory side of the firm, and so that's a lot of building strategy, business cases, product use cases, risk and compliance type of work, sort of the counterpart of Carrie's work. And I participated with Carrie in the working group in building out the NORS standard. So I'll just go down the line here. Amor, if you'd like to go next.
Hi everyone, my name is Amor Sexton. I'm COO of Blockdaemon. We're one of the world's largest Web3 infrastructure companies. So obviously staking, which we're here talking about today, but also full nodes, APIs. We have MPC technology, both as a private key management technology and then also an institutional on-prem wallet as well. I've been in crypto since 2013, so quite some time. When I was a lawyer in Australia specializing in it, I've also been in banking. I was head of blockchain for Citibank's institutional business, spent some time at Coinbase as well, and then now with Blockdaemon. So I've kind of gotten to see blockchain and institutional adoption, both from within the institutions, but also as a provider to institutions as well.
Hey everybody, I'm Collin Myers. I'm the founder of DV Labs. We're focused on building a collective called the Obel Collective, and we're the creators of the distributed validator, which you've heard mentioned a few times today. Brief background on me, I was an early employee at Consensus and an Ethereum contributor from the very beginning, and have really spent the majority of my time, more than I'd like to admit, only on Ethereum, and probably will only contribute to Ethereum for many years. Happy to be here. We collaborate with some of you, and excited to collaborate with some more of you in the future.
Everybody, Harry Austin from Galaxy Digital. You met my counterpart earlier, Zan Glauber. We run the Strategic Opportunities Group, focused on all things blockchain infrastructure services and products. Before that, I was at KPMG in the advisory practice, helping companies go public and helping transitioning their middle and back office. So SOC 1, SOC 2s, and all of those components are part of the foundation of where it came from.
Hey guys, Freddie Allen at Eigen Labs. Eigen Layer is a coordination layer that fosters open innovation. Some of you have hopefully heard about it. We have an exciting night tonight where we're expecting our Eigen token transfer unlock. Previously, I was at Rio. Rio was a pre-product LRT. It was before launch. I was there for a couple of weeks, and then we got acquired by EigenLayer. And then I was at Coinbase for 3 years, joined Coinbase through their acquisition of Bison Trails, and there's a lot of Bison Trails crew here today. Was there for a year, again, on business development, and then was at Republic Crypto for a couple of years before that. So I've been in crypto a while, and been following the evolution of staking, and now into restaking.
Very cool. Thank you very much. So go ahead and start with you, Collin. Again, we've got our specific technology here, restaking and DVT. If you just give a quick overview on DVT, why it's innovative and how it's sort of changed the game, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. So today a validator is a private key and a machine, and that is owned and ran by either an individual or an entity. And it's very monolithic. So you can think of the validators that we have today as like Gen 1 of a validator. They're not very smart, they fall over all the time. They're more like pets. You can think of them like pets. And what DVT enables is a validator to become like cattle. You can let them range free, you can let them go on their own, some die, some fall over. And ultimately the key technology in here, to be said simply, is an Ethereum validator can be shared by a group of people all over the internet for the first time. And this has a variety of different security implications, which is why it's relevant for NORS and institutions, but it also has a variety of different decentralization properties, which is why it's been heavily adopted today by restaking protocols, liquid staking protocols, as a means to decentralize their validator set. So a more specific use case is in Lido, for example, they have 29 validators and they have 32% of all stake. So over the past 2 years, there's been a massive pressure on Lido to decentralize. And decentralizing a liquid staking protocol is a spectrum, and it means a variety of different things. But what they're able to do with DVT is they can add at-home operators and semi-professional operators to their validator set. So recently, we were able to help Lido extend their validator set from 29 validators to 160 validators. And the extra 160, I can tell you, are not professionals, because there's not 160 professional validator entities in the world. These are people running at home. These are semi-professional people who have met in our Discord, who are developing an entity for the first time. And it has really made the foundation of that liquid staking protocol, where all the risk in the Ethereum network lies, to begin to be neutralized over time while still growing that protocol. And that's the difficulty of this space, is that everyone's playing the 32% game, where you can grow a product until it reaches 32%, and then the community kind of cuts you off from growing. And we're here to help projects who reach that limit provide a new set of infrastructure that can enable them to grow a bit further. And on the institutional side, people consider it to be a security protocol, and it's becoming table stakes. However, today DVT is only run by about 4% of the network, but we have expectations for it to grow to around 85% of the network.
Very cool, thank you. Love the cow analogy, it's very good. So sort of the same question for you, Freddie. We talk about restaking, sort of what is that, advantages, implications for the staking ecosystem?
Sure. So EigenLayer is a coordination layer to foster open innovation. What exactly does that mean? A good way to think about it is it's a marketplace for shared economic security. Shared economic security, the economic security in that equation is the TVL, the stake or the restake. So someone has ETH, the ETH token or an LST, and they're securing the underlying Ethereum network. Who's to say, or what restaking enables is it enables that ETH or that LST token that's securing one underlying protocol to also secure a different protocol, an AVS as we call it in the EigenLayer ecosystem, AVS standing for actively validated service. So within this marketplace, this restaking marketplace or shared economic security, you have a supply side and a demand side. Supply side of the TVL are the token holders or the restakers, and additionally the validator operators, importantly, like why I'm here for discussing with the NORS standard. Then there's LRTs as well, there's integration partners, custodians, wallets, exchanges, all sitting on the supply side to enable this restake, the TVL, the economic security. Then on the demand side are the AVSs themselves, actively validated services and users of AVSs, the AVS consumers. So what's so special about restaking? There's two key points. The first is it allows projects or protocols, these AVSs, it's a more efficient and optimal way for them to actually build, because they don't have to pay as much for the underlying economic security, because that economic security is already being shared. So it's lower cost, it's more optimal. The second key piece is the Eigen token itself. It's intersubjective attributable slashing. So the Eigen token can actually be forked. And what that means, what that allows for, is it broadens the scope of what can actually be put on a proof of stake protocol. So, and I encourage everybody to read the Eigen token white paper. Sriram talks about digital commons or putting some form of social truth onto a blockchain. So who's the president of the US? Who won the Super Bowl? So different forms of attributable faults can actually come onto a blockchain. And this is what the Eigen token and intersubjective slashing actually allows. So there's those two key takeaways, what makes EigenLayer and restaking super special.
Very cool, very cool. Okay, cool. So we had a couple from the leading tech providers here. We're going to switch a little bit to an institutional flavor here from Amor and Harry. So, you know, both of you sit sort of at different pieces of, but very far in the front of technological innovation. How would you say these kind of technologies have pushed the institutional staking landscape forward? And how do you think they will affect going forward over the next, I don't know, 5 or so years?
Okay. So given where Galaxy's position is in the ecosystem between the crypto native builders and some of the larger financial institutions that are either dipping their toes in crypto or they are or entering the space. I would say institutional adoption, you can look at it across the spectrum. I think Ben from Figment actually had a good breakdown before, but you have on one side the venture capital firms who are allocating into the space and are very much on the forefront, like in Eigenlayer and other restaking protocols. And then on the other side, you have the Bonies, who I think just got their SAB 121 exemption, and the Fidelities of the world that are on the far end of the risk spectrum. From where we see institutional adoption going is each of the institutions along that curve are in different aspects of crypto adoption. And where we see a lot of the activity is the portfolio managers and the fund managers who are either are staking in crypto today or are just starting to understand what staking is. And so there is, from a staking perspective, you have your physical staking with ETH, where you're actually bonding to a validator, versus you have an LST, which Liquid Collective, and Alluvial, which is a liquid staking token. But where we're seeing a significant migration forward is people taking the staked assets as collateral objects and using those as part of their portfolio management strategies to make them more liquid and make them more useful in a traditional portfolio management and risk management capacity. If you really think about it, right, on Ethereum, you have the dynamics of entry and exit queues that are really, that move. They can go from 5, 6, 7 days up to 45 days. I think we saw at the beginning of ETH staking. And that is unpredictability for any portfolio manager that's looking to allocate not only just a spot, but wants to generate yield on their crypto. Right now, we see a decent amount of the institutions that are playing in the space not actually staking their assets because of these dynamics. And so what we anticipate you'll see is a decent amount of whether it's OTC brokerage shops or other large institutions utilizing those assets and building financial products on top of them so that they can allocate to crypto and trade against them, whether that's lend against those products, hedge against them, or call overrating. There are a number of financial products that traditional staking today can be utilized into the future. And so that's where we see a lot of the adoption going, at least with the allocators. But on the Bony side and even on the Fidelity side, they're just getting into the beginning of staking. So we're starting to see traditional financial products being applied to an illiquid asset, which is the physical staking. Now, in crypto native capacity, like the venture shops, they already have LSTs. You can already use LSTs today as collateral objects, but the TradFi firms are not there yet with adopting LSTs and the additional risks that those apply.
Yeah, I mean, you covered a lot, so I'm not sure what more I could add, but I think one of the trends that we're seeing, maybe the journey that the traditional TradFi companies go on in their staking, the evolution of staking is that they start out staking for their own treasury so that they can get to understand the technology, they can understand the benefits of it, how to manage the portfolio of assets, and then start to look at how they can leverage it in their business. So a large amount of, for example, the asset managers that we would have as clients, that's the stage that they're at the moment. Really making sure that they can practice enough with it and they can learn before they start to build out these products. I think what we're seeing in Europe in particular is more and more actual banks, so not just asset managers and other TradFis, but very large regulated institutions and banks that are getting into staking, that the whole ETF evolution has made them very interested in it, and it's become a bit of a catalyst for them. I think that the challenge though is the complexity. I think every time they start to understand the technology, a new evolution happens. The evolution is great, and I think the way that the technology is evolving is actually for the better, but making sure that they can continue to keep their knowledge up to date and their comfort level with understanding both the technology and the ecosystem players, I think is still a challenge for them. But we're definitely starting to see not just proof of concepts, but we're starting to see banks actually staking themselves, although they're doing it very quietly and not necessarily talking about it in public.
Cool, love that. That's really good insight. I liked your point about things move quickly and these new technologies happen. We have Collin and Freddie here for that reason. Collin, when we're looking at DVT, throughout the development of NORS, DVT is certainly an option in terms, like you were saying, some people see it as a security protocol. You could see it as a reliability protocol, and very much, a defense against some slashing risks. So how have you seen the uptake and increase of adoption for DVT itself sort of grow over the years?
Yeah, it's a great question. So one of the great things about Ethereum is that when they design the hardware specifications to become a validator, they're quite minimal. And what that results in is tons of different types of validator entities. Whereas in Solana and other blockchains, you have to be rich to validate those chains, not only because the machines are very expensive, but the capital required to set those up is also very high. And they don't have slashing and all these other things. So the go-to-market for DVT has been pretty interesting because it includes people across 3 continents in their parents' basement, and it includes banks, all of which are interested in the technology at the same time, and we're trying to provide tools and solutions to kind of get them on their way. But since this is a cryptographic protocol and it's very grassroots, it all starts with the grassroots community. So even though DVT is a new technology, we started research on it 5 years ago, and it took us 3 years to develop it, and now it's finally at market and beginning to like really reach its peak. So DVT was a research topic at the Ethereum Foundation in 2019 that was on this to-do list that no one wanted to do because it was too tough. So I raised my hand and I was like, let's get it done. And since then, it's been like levels of adoption. We went from at-home validators to liquid staking pools to restaking, and now we're having the more institutional discussion, thankfully due to ETFs and ETPs, because this like whole structured product market requires extreme security. And that's like one of the benefits of DVT is that with the key being split up into pieces, you cannot steal the validator key, or it becomes, I can't say you can't from a cryptographic perspective, but it becomes extremely difficult to steal the key, to take over a validator, to become malicious, et cetera. And the ramifications of that are actually in the insurance space, which is where we've seen the most, I would say, recent breakthroughs in the institutional segment, which is on par for this discussion. In the insurance space today, you cannot insure for key theft or key loss. It is 100% uninsurable. And with DVT, for the first time, underwriters can actually begin to get comfortable underwriting entirely new risks that they could never stomach to underwrite prior. And then in the traditional insurance space, as they spoke about earlier, the cost of providing insurance to validator entities basically locks out only the pros who can afford it, and even the pros can't afford 100%. But what DVT enables, and some insurance providers have been working with packages on, and it can result in between 15 to 40% discount in what the insurance policy is that you have. Because the reality is today without DVT, a bad day at the office means you could lose all your money. Granted, it is mathematically very difficult to, as highlighted with some of the slashing statistics, but that risk exists today. And without DVT, that risk will continue to exist. So we've been working our way into the institutional market now as like a back door, and we're positioning DVT more like Intel in this regard, like the Intel inside strategy, where like it shouldn't matter what liquid staking protocol, what restaker, what validator, what bank, what ETF. It shouldn't really matter what they're using or like who you're using as a user. They should all be using something that adds more security, and that's kind of how Intel over time has positioned themselves. So that's like where we want to push DVT in the institutional space, and backdooring it through insurance has been a pretty interesting space. And those of you in the insurance topic would love to grab some time and chat more about it.
Very cool. Very cool. Okay, Freddie, very similar question. As restaking has come to be more adopted, how have you seen that growth? And then, how does that look, over the next, short term, 6 to 12 months? And then maybe, sorry, I'm throwing multiple prongs at you here. The importance of risk frameworks like NORS as restaking gets adopted by more and therefore can be folded in specifically to frameworks.
So adoption, we launched the points system, and stake drops is a very important way to get first mover adoption. Attracted a lot of yield-seeking retail and institutional restakers, and it topped out at $20 billion worth of TVL. So from that perspective, again, the marketplace analogy, the supply side of TVL was proven out significantly. So that is now focusing on the future. The second part to your question, the future is really the demand side of our marketplace. So the AVSs and the AVS consumers. So attracting the most compelling, not necessarily biggest, but the most compelling and innovative AVSs to come and build on EigenLayer, or attracting existing crypto projects to come and be an AVS. So that's a key focus for us. That's definitely what the future holds. And then with the Eigen token and intersubjective slashing as well, again, broadening the scope of what can be brought on-chain into proof of stake as well is a key focus. The NORS standard, to the last part of your question, so risk frameworks and particularly NORS, it's critical, absolutely critical. Having high quality enterprise grade validator operators, again, to get that supply side of the marketplace off the ground and bootstrap it was absolutely critical. And we have the most high quality validator operators that have supported us from day one. It really was a venture bet for them, and so extremely appreciative of them. And then further instilling that sort of enterprise grade, secure, reliable are these types of risk frameworks, and NORS has as well. And it's important. We're talking about traditional institutions. NORS frameworks are important in attracting the large asset managers, the large institutions to restake, because one of the critical and first questions are, it's like, who's the validator operator? Which validator operators do we go by, and what sort of risk frameworks do they have? But then again, we are a marketplace and we have a policy of neutrality, so it's not just only focusing on those large institutional and enterprise grade validator operators, it's also encouraging for us. We need to encourage the solo and the retail stakers as well. So to Collin's point, the Lido example of how DVT enables both of those institutional enterprise grade validator operators in conjunction to retail and solo is a really interesting prospect. So NORS is important, and so is DVT.
Very good, like it. Yeah, great job handling all the spaghetti I threw at the wall on you there. Okay, we'll slide back to you, Amor. When you think as a node operator, so how do you go about looking at the risks that exist or will exist and opportunities that are coming down? How do you, as the staking space evolves with new kind of technology, how do you go about doing that analysis between the risks and opportunities?
I think, well, it's a constant analysis. I think that's the first thing to call out, because it's a space where technology is evolving so rapidly. And it's really about just understanding exactly what the risks are in the context of the activity that we carry out specifically. I think blockchain's always challenged risk frameworks from day one, because it's not bilateral relationships, it's multilateral, it's an ecosystem. And one of the things that I find most challenging in it is when technology develops in the blockchain space, it also means new entrants, so new people who are getting involved, whether it's the innovation around MEV and relayers and things like that. So all of a sudden you have new people that are involved in the process, new entities, new organizations. So for us, I think it's a mixture of different things. It's continually understanding the technology itself, the role that the players, the new entrants to the ecosystem are playing. I think nomenclature is really important in risk management and risk frameworks, and I don't think we as an industry do enough to try and standardize nomenclature. In fact, it feels like every new protocol has an exciting way of describing what they're doing, which is fantastic from a marketing perspective, but when you're sitting down and you're trying to understand it from a risk perspective, you're trying to talk to regulators, it can start to get very confusing, and it can obfuscate and detract from the real risks there and from the real conversations people should be having. So that, that's really our focus. We've obviously been in the space for a long time. We know nodes, as was our original marketing tagline. So it's just keeping up to date with it, but really taking that pragmatic and practical view of exactly what is happening. How does it change what we've been doing? And how do we then need to adapt our own control framework, our own practices, to be able to both capitalize on the opportunities that these innovations are presenting, but then also to mitigate any new risks.
Very cool. I think sort of we talked about constant analysis, like that is also very important, I think, when you look at the frameworks. A couple of panelists have mentioned it throughout the day, and the working group had a lot of conversations around how do we keep NORS fresh. Is it an intentional review period that includes different aspects? Is it, fed from demand, like, these new networks would like to, we're seeing a lot of demand from these networks. Maybe that's something we can add. So I think, that's a perfect parallel to, for the opportunities, we're constantly analyzing, but from the frameworks itself, we're constantly analyzing and standardizing. Totally agree with you there. I think actually now that thank you very much to all of our panelists here. I think now that we're done here, I think we pass it to you for the closing remarks. Is that accurate? Okay. Yeah. Very good. Okay. We'll make our way out.